You give your AI agent all the relevant context that it needs. You give it access to your entire code base, relevant documents, even spec requirements. But I think it should give you the best results, right? No, reality is actually far from this case. It actually starts to perform worse. Conventional wisdom tells us more context should mean better results because it doesn't need to find anywhere else. But the reality is, it's far from ideal. And the more context you give it, the worse the performance gets. I'm going to share today my slice framework that cuts through context chaos and boosts AI productivity up to about 70%. This isn't just theory, this is actually backed up by research. We're going to be incorporating this into the slice framework and how you should approach AI projects. In the next 10 minutes, you'll learn slice framework, which stands for specify, limit, isolate, create, and evaluate. So I'm actually sharing on screen what you can actually build using this kind of framework and how to approach it. So on screen is just my content creation system that I've been building and really refining this process down. And I've actually got to the point where I can do multiple different workflows and very precise types of execution using this framework. So this is just a quick preview of that whole thing. And lastly, we're just looking at how context is loaded in our workflow. And it depends on the action that we're trying to do. Well, Sliced is based on 1,565 studies from OpenAI, Google, and Stanford researchers. Plus, I'm putting some of my own experience into this framework to actually make it work. If you use this framework, you should see up to a 70% improvement if you're using this correctly. We're going to start with the first letter of Slice, S, which is specify. It's your context strategy. Right context, not more context. That's kind of what I want to get over here. What is the specific outcome that this agent needs to deliver? Define each task boundary before actually feeding it context. Also, do some relevant tests, like is this piece of information actually directly relevant to the outcome? If not, exclude it. Really try pinpoint it down. Remember, it's quality over quantity here. You don't want to give too much, because the more noise you add, the less quality you get. Garbage in, garbage out. Ask yourself, how does this context help the agent make better decisions? Quality always beats quantity every time. The biggest context mistake most people make when they start is they give their whole entire code base to the agent. They ask for some kind of result, and they get this Frankenstein of a monster back, and they wonder why. And it's actually because you're overloading it with too much context. The solution could just be only giving it access to the relevant 12 files that it might need actually produce a better result. And on screen here, I actually just have a graph showing how accuracy actually decreases as the context window expands. This is actually from a study called Liu et al.'s Lost in the Middle study. So you can see here on screen, when it was at 4K, it was about 92. And when we went to all the way 128K context window, the performance dropped all the way down to 63%. All right, so this kind of goes a little bit against what we've been taught the last 2 years. Conventional wisdom says, more data equals better AI performance because you're feeding the AI everything it should need, so it shouldn't need to look and it should produce better results. But the reality actually is the more precise data actually equals better AI performance, and you have to feed the agent exactly what it needs, not everything it needs. All right, this brings us to the second stage, limit. So this is more the strategic context side of things. You want to always limit what's coming through. I want you to imagine a surgeon, and the surgeon is responsible for the surgery for himself. And by him, he's always got a set of tools. If he's got too many tools, he might feel overwhelmed and pick the wrong tool for the job. But if he actually only puts the tools he needs for that surgery, he's less likely to make a mistake. This is where the limit part comes in. You can think of your AI agents the same way. You want to give it only the right tools it needs by limiting that chance of it doing something wrong. Remember, context pollution is a problem. We don't want to overwhelm it. If we give irrelevant context, we are going to have some context pollution and we'll get degrading results. So this is important to know. So for example, we could actually tell an agent where files are exactly, reducing search time from 30 seconds to 2 seconds if it knows exactly what folder it needs to get things on. You really start limiting things. It's a good example. All right, this goes on to the tool problem. Misunderstand with AI agents, even if you're referring to sub-agents, that's also a tool call. I'm actually categorizing sub-agents and other agents that you refer to as tools in this. So keep this in mind. So giving your agent access to every single tool actually creates decision paralysis for it. It also sometimes makes the wrong decision possible, and performance degrades because we overloaded context with all these different tools that it has access to. The way to think of this is too much freedom equals poor performance, creates clarity. Now, if you've just done these two things, you're probably ahead of 80% of all developers. Just to clarify where we are in the slice framework, we've done the first two, specify and limit. We're going to go move to isolate, create, and evaluate. Next one, isolate. So really think of like your agent architecture here. You want to kind of separate your agent into different sections. You don't want one agent that does everything because we will overload that context window that we're just talking about. We kind of want to frame the agent to specific tasks. Think of it like a professional kitchen. Pastry chef doesn't handle the grill. The grill chef doesn't wash dishes. Every station has a specific tool and responsibility. And this is how you should think of agents. So you could have your main agent, which is like your orchestration and decision making only. And it could hand over to coding agents or testing agents. And that could help boost performance. So I just want to make a quick story here. So it kind of drives this point home. I was actually using an all-purpose agent. I actually want to just test my authorization system and give me any errors back so I can fix them. But what actually happened was it actually found that it was errors and then tried to repair it, which it did not do a great job. And actually, I had to take some time to undo all those changes because it wasn't actually what I was asking for. I was just asking if it was a pass or fail. What I actually needed at that time was just a quick test with a yes or no. What this taught me was we kind of want to isolate our agents. So less permissions of what it should do or less responsibilities of what it should do to get better results. All right, this brings us to the next section, create. It's actually called create task specification. The reason why I'm a big fan of this is because we want to limit context everywhere. We might want to pass context from one agent to another. And what I found is passing the actual context or allowing an agent to be responsible for what context it passes doesn't always net the best results. But by actually creating a file, in this case a task file, we actually contain all the context relevant in that file and we can pass it to other agents. And what is great about this? Whilst we limit context everywhere else, comprehensive task files act as a detailed contracts between you and your agent. So these specifications actually transform vague requests into reliable, predictable outcomes. So think of this as a blueprint that kind of guides your construction. Without it, you get this creative interpretation instead of actually what you need. This kind of goes back to the task file. With the task file, when you're building it up, you want to make sure it has the relevant path where context is located, what dependencies might be needed for that task, what are the functional signatures, like what precise inputs, outputs the function should need, or the problem state, and maybe some integration points that it might need to consider for that task. So again, a vague task file will produce messy results, but a detailed specification will produce better and consistent results, and we can debug from this. All right, this moves us to our last point, E, evaluate. This is your quality control checkpoint for ensuring your agent actually delivered what you specified. So you can ask yourself, was the feature complete? Include all the requirements from your specification. Were the requirements followed? Did it follow the constraints and guidelines you gave it? Does it actually solve the problem? Important distinction you need to know here. Working does not mean it's complete here. And agents like to do this all the time. So for example, you can ask for an authentication system where it has, the user can create accounts, basic password validation, and stores it in the database. But a complete system, your email is actually sent to you when you sign up. You've got password strengthening requirements, you've got account recovery systems, and you've got security audit tails with storing everything in the database, as we stated before. So don't get confused between it's working and it's complete. So try evaluate your outputs regularly just to see how it's actually performing. So think of this like a navigation on a boat. The quicker you do it and the earlier you do it, the less likely you're going to have a ship that's steering in the wrong direction. Evaluate early and then adjust accordingly. This completes the slice framework. So we start with specify. So specify is you're really trying to specify what is the goal of your agent framework in this case that you're trying to build. You know what the outcomes look like, what the input should be. Have you actually detailed that down? Have you written that down? You understand it? If so, then you can move to limit. How do I limit down the context? What are the actual tools needed to perform each of these tasks? You can move into, okay, well, I've got my task down. Where can I isolate these tasks? What agents can I isolate these tasks to? How can it be used in this manner? Then we move to create. How can I create my context files? In this case, tasks that I can pass from agents to agent to make sure that there's no context drift and it can complete the task as needed. And evaluate, is my agent actually giving me the results I need? If not, I should go back and tweak the individual steps that it used to get a better result. And this is a lot easier using the framework. All right, so this is just another metaphor to hopefully drive the point home. I kind of want to slice your context like a chef. Every cut is intentional, it's purposeful, there's no excess fat. You're only having the essential ingredients you need, so that just creates the perfect result. I really want to think this way. All right, if you like videos like this where I actually break down AI concepts and actually AI tooling into manageable steps, please hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions that you would like me to cover, please hit me down below in the comment section. Or if you need some help, please just reach out. All right, I just want to quickly go over how I thought about using the framework. I'm just giving you a quick example. So on the left here, you can see I've got my different agents. I've got my content illustration agent. I've got my sub agents all here for specific tasks. And then in my commands, I have a very set amount of commands here that I can use to generate certain results. And then I actually have my context broken down. I've got my brand, I've got my bio persona, I've got different platforms, how it looks. Even have like the project management stuff, how it should actually look using the project management. Then I even have templates, how it should actually build certain things so it's all consistent across this whole project. And what you can see is this is how it looks. I've actually got my projects right here. Each project we can see there's a task.md, a status.json, so I can go in here and see where is it currently right now in the status, and we can see it's complete. And we can see there's all these different types that we're trying to keep track of. You've then got key metrics and actions, because I can tell it, hey, I want to find all projects with certain metadata. I can actually use the static.json, see where it's at. And in here, we've got the different blogs and YouTube. Information we can see on Twitter, we've got the draft, we've got LinkedIn, but even like the images that are generated for it, etc. So really broken this down into a manageable format that we can actually use the AI agent to actually pass through it. If you use the slice framework and you really break down, okay, what's your goal, break down your tasks, then from that you use limit, okay, how do I limit the context for each task? Then you go into the isolation, okay, what are the sub agents I can use, and what context do I need to pass to those sub agents to actually get the result I really care about? Then you can start thinking about, okay, do I create files that I can use in my workflows, so context is passed or loading, I need to pass it to sub agent. And what files do I need to include in this task so I can make sure it is created correctly, so when it is passed to other agents, it knows exactly what you retrieve. And then the last step is I just go and I evaluate all my outputs here. So if we go look at the first one, some of these outputs weren't the greatest, and I didn't quite like them. So I started really updating them as I go on. So YouTube has been my main focus on this one. So we can see I started really trying to, I saw this was decent, but it wasn't really great. Anyway, so this is just a quick look at how you can use Slice Framework. If you found this video useful and you want to keep up to date with more AI trends like this and different techniques you can actually use in your own production systems, please hit that subscribe button down below. And thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.